we've been talking Disney Plus. We're now going to be talking about Disney, and we're going to be talking about Marvel. Major MCU news just dropped yesterday from the day we are recording. The Russo brothers are in talks to direct two Avengers films, Avengers 5 and Avengers Secret Wars. So, to recap the Russo brothers and their history with Marvel Studios, they directed four of Marvel's biggest and best regarded films. They helmed Captain America, The Winter Soldier, back in 2014. They did Captain America Civil War in 2016. They did Avengers Infinity War in 2018 and Avengers Endgame in 2019. Combined, their Marvel films have grossed $6.68 billion, with Endgame standing as the number 2 movie all time globally with $2.79 billion. Talks are in early stages for the Russo brothers to return to the MCU. Avengers 5 was reportedly offered to Sean Levy a couple months back, director of the upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine that releases next week. Make sure you listen and watch the review. Avengers 5 is set for May 1st, 2026, with Secret Wars being set for May 7th, 2027. Ricky, Flix, do you think it's the right move for Marvel to go back to the bread and butter? Or should I say Joe and Anthony Russo? Do you find it desperate?
It's a little desperate. They've been looking for someone forever. It's like, oh, we can't find anyone. Let's go back to someone we know is going to say yes. It's a safe bet. But here's the problem. Here's the problem with this. And I don't hate this, okay? But I don't love it. And here's the problem. It's really tough. Like, all right, let's just picture this. Again, we always do sports metaphors. Imagine you pick up somebody from free agency, like a veteran, right? He used to be great, past his prime though. And you're like, oh, he could slide in on as a starter. He could be one of our power hitters. He hit 50 home runs just a few years ago. He could hit 50 again. But he's older. He hasn't had a couple great seasons. That's why he's a free agent. And he just doesn't have that mojo, the groove, that flow anymore. So then he hits maybe 20 home runs. Right? That's what it feels like to me. Cherry, Gray Man, the producing credits on other things that the Russos have done haven't necessarily been 50 home run seasons, right? They've been misses. So you're bringing these guys back who, they had the big MVP years, right? And you think it's stable and consistent and fine. But no, we're in a new era, right? They're out of their prime. And for me, I think it's fine. It's a safe bet. And I just feel like you should have gone out there and tried to go get the MVP. Trade all your prospects and go get the best director you can. Instead, you failed and you went back to what you can get a free agent for cheap. And that's what they did here. Someone that's on a low, a stock that's low, you could buy low and hopefully sell high. But I'm telling you right now, I don't think this is getting to Endgame Infinity War levels of hype. So I don't know. I don't love it, but I don't hate it.
Ricky, they are the MVPs. They're the MVPs. There is no one better suited to direct these movies.
8 years ago,
Ricky, to think that this is the first time that they've been approached to direct these movies is freaking insane. They probably were approached previously, that was not been reported, or they did not entertain the idea. To think that they already said that they wanted to direct Secret Wars at some point in their career, right? It was offered to Sean Levy, but do you think Sean Levy's the first name that Marvel's tapping? No. Destin Daniel Cretton. Do you think he was the first name that they tapped after he directed Shang-Chi to direct Avengers 5? The first people that they're going to ask are the people that directed Infinity War and Endgame, two of the 5 or 6 highest grossing films ever made. And there's no one else that you can find and have confidence in to pull this type of job off. With all the pieces, the moving pieces that are involved, the understanding of the universe, right? When you have the understanding of multiple cinematic universes when it comes to Secret Wars, they are the most valuable directors you could have here. And that's why I love this decision overall. It's desperate because I imagine Kevin Feige had been badgering these two to do it. And the thing is, I think it's like two lost souls finding one another, right? Where you have Kevin Feige going in separate ways, separating from the Russo brothers. Russo brothers do their thing. You had the failures directorially for them. Yes, they produce everything everywhere all at once, but they're not the reason that thing's winning. I don't know how many goddamn Oscars that thing won. You see the struggles of the MCU. To see these lost lovers find their way, I think it could be something special. My concern is, you're right. You're getting back into the flow. You haven't been inside the universe. You don't know the mechanizations of the recent Disney Plus shows and the movies that have released, right? So being thrown into the fold is going to feel like a hurricane. I would be more comfortable if Avengers 5 didn't even happen and they were just directing Secret Wars. But overall, I like it, Ricky Flex. Dare I say, love it.
Yeah, like I agree with you. Everything you said. I just think I'm more middle of the road. I like it, don't love it. You're right. Like there's few directors that could actually do this job. Right? There's probably more that could, but just haven't gotten the opportunity or the experience, and you can't really give a $200+ million budget to someone like that, like they just did with Leslie Headley or whatever, the Acolyte that we just talked about. It's like this is Marvel. This is like Kevin Feige we're dealing with, someone that knows how to work with Kevin Feige properly. Again, they just brought in all these first-time directors for all these projects post Endgame, and look how all these films have gone. Right? They haven't necessarily, you hear things on set and also offset related in production that aren't really jiving. I'm thinking of the Marbles, right? And what happened there with DaCosta, the director of that movie, how she was in England in post-production on her next movie. Like, you need someone that you could rely on. And the Russos are people that have that history of cooperation and that team in that environment in the MCU team. It's just like, again, it goes back to the times have changed. 5 years since Endgame. The MCU landscape has changed. The fans and the mindset of us have changed. Your audience. It's really a different era. And they're bringing back somebody from a different era. I know you could say it's only 5 years ago, but it literally has changed. That change has felt like 20 years at times. It really
Yeah,
has.
but I also think there is not really a clear direction. That might change with the release of Deadpool and Wolverine next week. But yes, there is a multiverse. And with the separation of Kang and the events of Loki season 2, and Jonathan Majors no longer returning to the role of King the Conqueror, we no longer have the Kang dynasty, all that jazz. I think there's a lot of opportunity for the Russo brothers to carve out a story that they find from this multiverse saga, something that's going to be able to connect this this Avengers 5 movie almost as like a table setter for Secret Wars. I don't even know if they should have Avengers 5. I'd rather be like a character movie, almost like what they did with Captain America Civil War, setting up the Avengers and their split heading into Infinity War. Maybe I would rather prefer that. And then you can just have the Russo brothers do their thing rather than like putting them on and taking up 2 movies, 26, 27. You don't even know what the Avengers lineup is going to look like, who's going to be there, who's formidable, but you know what's going to work in terms of like putting asses in the seats and having your biggest stars appear. It's going to be Secret Wars. So I don't even know if you need like Avengers 5. That's the only thing I'm really skeptical of. I think they would hit Secret Wars out of the park.